wanted to be connected to the organization by volunteering. And in volunteering at LSNA, Logan Square Neighborhood Association, she was able to offer her gifts in her capacity in our organization, which has all these other member organizations, groups, agencies, block clubs, and it gave everyone a chance to see what Genevieve has to offer. She does our mailing, she helps us with the stamp machine and folding paperwork and stuffing envelopes. But what I feel that as an organization, what we benefit from having Genevieve there is has opened everyone's eyes and heart to be accepting and to be more natural and happy, because of the work we do in organizing, we have to deal a lot with other people's issues, and this gives us a chance to forget about all those issues and all the other stuff we have to worry about. We're able to be more of ourselves and enjoy and laughter and sharing of each other in our personal world with Genevieve. And so having her here has been a very positive opportunity for all of us. And so we welcome her here as a mom to some of us or a grandmother to others.
The president of the Logan Square Neighborhood Association is Ray Colon. And I had an opportunity to talk with him about his own experience in this organization that said, we're making our community stronger by finding the gifts of people who are thought to be ungifted, people who've been stored away in group homes, who are surrounded by services, who are lost to us in community. So he told me about his own experience as the director of a Boys and Girls Club. I know that one of the projects that you've got in the Logan Square Neighborhood Association is called the Community Building Project. Yes. What is that?
The Community Building Project is a program designed to help integrate people with special needs and special populations into the regular life of the neighborhood, getting them involved.
And how does that work?
Well, I've got a personal story, I guess, and mine is about Earl. As the director of Boys and Girls Club 4 years ago, Rosita from LSNA introduced Earl as a person that might be able to volunteer and work with our children.
What was Earl doing before this?
I'm not sure. I know that he lived at a home, and like I said, he had some special needs, but he really wasn't truly linked into the neighborhood. This gave him an opportunity to meet new friends, and for us, he was a great asset to our staff.
He came into the boys' club, and what kind of thing did he do there?
Well, he assisted in he was a games room recreation leader, and he was an aide there, but he was able to relate to children the way many of our staff could not, because he was at their level, and he took a lot of time out for those personal teachable moments, and he really did a good job in kind of steering them the right way and getting them to look at their behavior, and served as a good role model too.
Great. Did people appreciate that?
People appreciate it. As a fact, Earl received the Community Award from the Network for Youth Services about 1.5 years into the program. So he was acknowledged by the whole neighborhood as an outstanding community citizen. So he's got recognized for that.
And before that, he had just been in a group home and not really connected?
Not really connected at all,
and
no.
You brought him in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What's happening is that Genevieve and Earl, who you saw, are people who are now productive, who were wasting away in the human services. They are productive people now. Their spirit, their own integrity, their sense of purpose has grown immensely. And at the same time, the community is stronger. The Boys and Girls Club now has somebody in the game room who's brought order and enthusiasm to it. And at the Logan Square Neighborhood Association, they have a mother, in a sense, that they have always been missing. So you can see that community organizations can be organized for the very purpose, in part, of reaching to those people who are strangers and bringing them into the community. All kinds of strangers, aren't there, Joe?
I think that's right. And in fact, if you, if you do look at building communities from the inside out, you'll see a whole list of chapters that are devoted to people on the margins of the community, in ways in which communities are inventing to re-enter community for those folks. I think what we've finally come to discover is that these people out on the edges of community, they do have needs. And their major need is to be brought back into the center as contributors to give. The worst way we marginalize young people and older folks is by saying to them, you have nothing to give. Just go off and get filled up somehow, and when you're filled up, come back into community, because only then will we have some use for you. So we're creating useless and giftless people, and that has to stop. Now we've got some tools that begin to help communities take a look at the gifts of the people in them. And I want to just, as we come to the end of this section on individual gifts, let you know about one of the tools that you'll find in building communities from the inside out. John?
In this guide at page 19, you'll see a very unusual document. It's called a capacity inventory. And let me describe what it focuses on and what other communities have focused on when they've said, what we're going to do is get systematic about identifying the gifts and capacities of people. And as we've looked around the country, we found groups that have focused on 5 different kinds of gifts of individuals. Now, we think there are a million kinds of gifts, but these 5 have been most specifically developed, and we want to tell you about what they are. And I know when you hear them, you'll realize that every community and every individual has these gifts. So the first kind of gift that this capacity inventory is focusing on is the skills and abilities of local people. Have they taken care of someone who's sick? Have they driven a truck? Do they know how to paint, right? Have they cared for an older person? And so this neighborhood organization got a list of about 120 things that people could do. They tested it in the neighborhood, and then they went door to door and asked everybody, we've got a list of things here that people can do. Can you tell us whether you can do them? And you know, in this neighborhood where I think 1/3 of the people were experiencing welfare, that the smallest list was 20 things. There's nobody who couldn't do 20 things, right? And yet this was said to be a low-income, impoverished, where people didn't have any abilities. They needed to be trained. But when you really get serious about examining what skills and abilities people have, and we aren't usually very serious about it, you will find that everybody has a very significant list. The critical question is, are you organized then to take the 20 things that the folks are able to do and to connect them to those who want to have it done, either financially, for money, or not for money? So that's the first thing. What skills do people have? The second thing that you'll see there is an inventory of the civic skills of people. That is, what have you organized in the neighborhood? What have you done at your church? What have you done in terms of youth activities, so that you are finding out what kinds of civic and community skills people have? What kind of participation have they been involved in? And then, and even more important, what would they like to be involved in? You know, we have very few places where people are going to the residents and their neighbors and saying, we have these things in our neighborhood that the community needs to have done. Which would you like to do with all your gifts, right? We're not organized to do that. We're organized to go to that same neighborhood and say, what's wrong here? We're going to go outside and pay somebody to come in and fix you up. You see, it's the opposite of a capacity inventory. The third thing that you'll see in that capacity inventory is they're asking people about their enterprise experience. By that, they're saying, have you ever been involved in any kind of business that you started, right? Or have you ever thought of starting a business? And if you haven't started one, would you like to start one? And what can we do to help you begin to start a business? And incidentally, we now know that more people in low-income communities have been in some kind of business, have been buying and selling stuff, right, legally, right, than in upper-income neighborhoods where they're all going to be managers and doctors and lawyers. The enterprise center of America is low-income community. We're just not organized in ways that call that forth, right? The fourth, and it's not in the book, so the fourth capacity that some neighborhood groups have focused on is people's ability to teach things. We know of one neighborhood where they created a learning exchange where they found 28,000 topics that people were prepared to teach in that neighborhood. That made the local school look pitiful, right? Because they can't teach 28,000. But if we could mobilize our teaching ability in community, right, it would be incredible how much richer we would be. And finally, the last of the capacities and gifts that have been inventoried are some that have to do with the cultural or artistic abilities of people. I think we've got a list here that we can show you that was developed in one neighborhood, and this list is a list that shows all of the kinds of things that people in a neighborhood can do aesthetically, culturally. Here you see that there were musicians, theater artists, visual artists, film artists, writers, needleworkers, fabric workers, miscellaneous crafts, and then people who knew the history of the community. And these cultural skills, right, mobilized in the community are economic resources, but they are vital to the revitalization of the spirit of neighborhood, where the culture and history, crafts and skills of the people can once again be valued and brought forward and lifted up. And those skills were all found in 8 blocks in a low-income neighborhood in Chicago. So, Jode?
And we then, as the last thing in this program, would like to invite all of you across the country to join our friends in the studio here in a couple of quick assignments that we hope you'll get to at the end of this program. John's talked about a kind of complex capacity inventory that asks a whole lot of questions about what people can do in neighborhoods. We'd like you to have some fun with doing a simplified kind of gift interview.
From Maine to New Mexico, Arkansas to Oregon, Civic Network Television is lighting up America. CNT, linking America's communities to each other and the future. Live from Washington, D.C., Civic Network Television brings you Mobilizing Community Assets. And now, our moderator, Ramona Edelin.
Now let's start Module 3, Strengths of Citizens Associations.
And so our next step is to explore this realm, the Citizens Association realm, the realm of churches and block clubs and cultural groups and athletic groups in neighborhoods. John, you want to start us down that path?
Good. Well, the reason that we want now to focus on associations is because in the years we've traveled across America looking in cities and small towns for initiatives that increase the economic and the political and the social power of local folks. What we have found as the most common mobilizer of the gifts and the capacities of local people isn't businesses, isn't agencies, isn't governments, it is associations. Now, what do we mean by associations? Well, historically, associations were first written about by a Frenchman named Alexis de Tocqueville. And he came on a tour across the United States in 1831. And in that tour, he saw 2 things that struck him as being unique about this country. One terrible thing and one great thing. The terrible thing was slavery, and he had a compatriot with him who wrote about slavery in America. And the other thing that he saw was how the communities here were being built. And he said, you know, in the United States, communities are not like the communities in Europe. And he said, what I see at the heart of communities in the United States is little groups of people